Hi everybody, welcome to this very beginner-friendly crochet lesson. Today we are going to be working with impeccable yarn or any other 4-weight yarn will do. I just really happen to like this Impeckables by Loops and Threads. It's available and pretty inexpensive at Michael's. This is their house brand. So we are going to make a very beginner-friendly headband. We do need yarn, obviously. You're going to need a pair of scissors. You are going to need a crochet hook. This particular yarn recommends a 5mm hook, so that is what I am using here, 5mm crochet hook. And there are tons and tons and tons of different kinds of hooks. You don't need to have this special kind. A plain old metal hook is fine. I use metal hooks all the time. This just happens to be my favorite hook. And you're also going to need a needle just for the very end, just to weave in those loose ends. So we won't be needing these anytime soon. And actually, we're going to set this aside for a minute too, because the first thing we need to do is a slip knot. So the first thing we need to do is to make a slip knot. So I'm just going to demonstrate how to do that. I find when I start talking, it makes it even harder for me to demonstrate it. So I'm just going to show you how I do it, and then we can slow it down and look at it again. Here, I'll do it again. And one more time. Okay, so once we have a slip knot, we're going to put our hook inside it. And you can pull either one of these pieces of yarn, and it's going to tighten that slip knot up, because we don't want it too loose and we don't want it too tight. And from there, we're going to make our first chain. Now, the first thing you need to do when you're making your chain is you're going to wrap your yarn over the top of your hook and kind of hold it in place while you use your hook to grab it and pull it through the loop. So let's do that again. Wrap the yarn over, hold everything in place, use that hook to pull it through your loop. So now I've got 2 chains on my hook. So I've got one here and one here. So I'm going to try that again. Yarn over and pull it through. Now you don't want to pull those too tight, but you don't want them too loose either. Yarn over and pull it through. Now in the end we're going to want 15 of these, so we've done 4. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to yarn over and pull it through. Yarn over and pull it through. Yarn over and pull it through. So I will meet you back here again when you have 15 on your hook. Okay, so now I've got 15 chain spaces. And if you look at your chain, it looks kind of like someone had braided it, like a hair braid. Try to hold it up closer to the camera so you can see. And this is as wide as our headband is going to be. So before we start the next row, you actually have to do one more chain, and that's called the turning chain. Now we don't really do anything with the turning chain, it just helps us to get to the next row up. So we're just going to make that chain and just ignore it. And we're going to work our first crochet stitch into the next chain. Okay, so each chain has what they call legs. So here's a leg and here's a leg. There's the back leg and the front leg. Now most of the time you'll be working into both of these, but when you're starting just the chain row, you're just going to be working into one. So we're going to skip this one and go right into this one. So we're going to insert our hook here. And then I like to use my hook to grab the yarn. Okay, some people like to yarn over. I like to just hold my yarn underneath and grab it to pull it through that loop. And now I've got 2 loops on the hook. And then pull another loop right through. And that's my first single crochet stitch. Now we're going to do that all the way across. So you're going to get to see it again. We're going to insert our hook into the next stitch. So let me take that off of there for a second so you can see. Here's the stitch I just did. So this is the next stitch. See how that loop is there? There's all these little loops. We're working into the next one. So we're going to insert our hook. I'm going to pull that a little tighter. I'm going to turn my hook to grab that yarn and pull it through. So now I've got 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of them. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Here's the next stitch. Insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops. I need a little bit more yarn here. There we go. Okay, let's do it again. Insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. And again, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. I'm just going to keep working all the way across. And I will say that for me, the very first row is the hardest because there's not a lot to hold on to. It makes it kind of fiddly. But just keep plugging away and you'll get there. Now remember we started with 15. So when we get to the 15th stitch, we're going to be at the end. It looks like we're getting close. If this is feeling very awkward to you or fiddly, just be patient with yourself. It does take practice. Okay, it looks like I have 1 stitch left, but before I work into it, I'm just going to count and make sure I've got 15. Okay, so let's count these stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is right there. So this one right here is number 15, so we are right on track. So we're just going to finish that last stitch. And now we're going to chain 1. Remember I said at the end of every row we're going to chain 1. That's our turning chain. And we're going to turn our work, which really just means you flip it over. Because now we're going to always be working from this side to this side. Okay, so now that we're working our second row, we're not working into chain stitches anymore. we're working into regular stitches. And you can see those V's, are still on the top. And so we're going to work underneath both legs of the V's. And if that's a little bit tricky for you, an easy way to find those is to kind of stretch your work out a little bit. And you can see the space underneath each stitch. If you stretch it, you can see that little space. Okay? So we chained one, we turned our work, and now we're going to just do the same thing. We're going to do single crochet. So here is our first stitch. Work your hook under both. You pull up that loop until you have 2 on the hook. Yarn over and pull through both. Okay, so it's really just the same. The only difference is that you're going under both legs of the stitch. So we do it in the next one. Pull up our loop, whoops, yarn over and pull through 2. And the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And we're going to continue all the way across. Okay, so I'm almost to the end of my second row, really. The first row is like the chain. And this is the first row where I've crocheted into actual stitches. So I want to count up and make sure that I have all of my stitches before working into the last one. So if you see this here, this little loop right here, this is not a stitch. This is the turning chain. Okay, so the first stitch is right here. So we're going to start there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this right here, this last V is our last stitch. And this little line here, that is our turning chain. Okay, so we're just going to build in our last stitch. So work your hook under both legs of the stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So we've done one complete row of single crochets, and now we're going to chain 1, just like we do at the end of every row, turn our work, and we're just going to continue to do that all the way across again. So here's our first stitch. We're going to single crochet into that stitch. Oops. Single crochet into the next and into the next, and we're going to do that all the way across. And the more you do this, the easier it gets, the faster you get, and the bigger your project will get. And as your project grows, it gets easier for a couple reasons. One is because you're practicing, and the other reason is because you've got more to hold on to. So it becomes a little less fiddly than holding on to that little chain that you had to hold on to in the beginning. So you're just going to continue working your way across. And after you can do this, that's pretty much it for your whole project. This project, anyway. Okay, so I'm going to work into that last stitch. Whoops. Pull that all the way through. And now I'm going to count up my stitches, make sure I've got them all. Okay, so remember this little loop, that's our turning chain. That's not a stitch. This is our first stitch. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So perfect. We chain 1 and turn our work and start again. Whoops, my hook keeps falling off. Okay, so we are going to continue to do this for as long as we need to make it fit around our head. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to work on mine and leave you to work on yours, and I will meet you back here when you think that yours is long enough to wrap all the way around your head, you know, covering your ears, because we want this headband to cover our ears to keep them nice and toasty warm this winter. Okay, so I'll see you back here in a little while. Okay, so I have worked single crochet rows for this entire strip, and I've measured it to my head, and it's about the right size that I want it to be, so I'm just going to measure that. It looks like for me it was about 19.5 inches. Now that might be different for you. That's why I suggest, measuring it to your head to see how long you would like yours to be, because everybody's head is a little bit different. So from here, got my loop here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a long tail so that I have plenty of yarn to stitch this together. All right, so I've got my loop here, and you can do this with your hook. You don't have to do it with your hook. You can just use your fingers if you want to. But I'm just going to pull that long tail through that last loop and tighten it down. Okay, at this point, we are going to thread our needle. And the tricky part is how do you get this big thick yarn into this little eye, right? So what I do is I fold it over like that, and I just squish it down nice and tight, and I pull that through, and it makes a nice tight edge, and you just kind of wiggle it through there. Works like a charm. So now it's just a matter of folding it in half, and with your threaded needle going back and forth under our stitches to join the two sides together. So you just find your next loop and then go under the next loops on the corresponding side. And you don't want to pull it too tight, so you don't want it to be all puckered. You just kind of want to have it nice. And just keep going back and forth until you make your way all the way across. And I'll see you at the other side. Okay, it looks like we've got about one stitch left. So we're going to take that all the way across. Oops, tail got in the way. And now it's just a matter of kind of tying a little bit of a knot. And the way I like to do that is I don't pull the loop all the way through. I've got my tail there. What I do is I just leave a little bit of a loop, and then I thread that back through there. That kind of ties it off neatly. And then you just kind of want to scoot your needle under some of these stitches to kind of hide that thread, or that piece of yarn rather. And this is what is known as weaving in your ends. So you're just basically hiding the end of the yarn so that it all just kind of blends in together. And you just kind of go back and forth underneath some stitches, and once you go under them a few times, it secures everything in place. It makes it look nice and neat. And from there you just, you just snip off the end. It's very tidy, very neat. So now that your headband is done, it's sometimes fun to put on like a cute embellishment. So I have this little flower here, and you can either use like a safety pin and just pin it on, or you can sew it on with a needle and thread. It's completely up to you. If you just pin it on, then you can always remove it at any time too. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you have a great day.